Have you ever noticed how easy it is to get lost in millennial nostalgia? Rewatching the same shows, replaying the same games, scrolling through digital nostalgia threads, as if the past somehow feels safer than whatever adulthood is supposed to be. It's almost like a quiet, collective secret. Many people aren't just reminiscing, they're hiding. And yet, nobody wants to admit that this nostalgia might actually be a psychological comfort zone, a subtle form of emotional avoidance disguised as just vibing. The controversial truth? A lot of adults today aren't stuck because life is hard, though it is. They're stuck because nostalgia psychology gives them an escape hatch. It's a digital comfort zone so cozy that escaping it feels like betrayal. Social media nostalgia, internet nostalgia, even doom-scrolling psychology all work together to keep people caught in something psychologists call an adolescent mindset in adults. But here's the twist. The problem isn't nostalgia itself, it's how we use it. Because when nostalgia becomes a coping mechanism for avoiding adulthood, when it sneaks into identity development, fuels arrested development psychology, and becomes a psychological trap, it quietly shapes millennial behavior patterns in ways most people never notice. If you've ever felt stuck in the past, overwhelmed by millennial burnout, or unsure why growing up still feels terrifying, this video is your mirror. By the end, you'll understand not only why this happens, but also how to break the nostalgia trap without losing the parts of your past that actually matter. Why nostalgia feels safer than adulthood. You've probably noticed how nostalgia has this strange power to make the past feel softer than it actually was. Nostalgia psychology filters out the chaos and leaves only the comforting highlights, which makes millennial nostalgia and digital nostalgia feel almost addictive when adulthood gets overwhelming. You slip into old shows, old games, old playlists, not because today is bad, but because yesterday feels easier to handle. It becomes your psychological comfort zone without you even realizing it. And slowly, emotional avoidance starts shaping decisions you haven't questioned yet. You might tell yourself you're just rewatching something for fun, but deep down, it's also a break from the pressure of becoming who you think you're supposed to be. That's where arrested development psychology sneaks in, when you reach for familiar emotions to soothe the fear of growing up. Maybe you dive into social media nostalgia after a long day, or scroll through internet nostalgia threads to escape millennial burnout. These patterns don't make you weak, they make you human. But they also reveal how easy it is to get stuck in the past without noticing. And then it hits you. The more you lean on digital escapism, the more adulthood feels like an unfamiliar room you don't want to walk into. Hours of doom-scrolling psychology later, you're still restless, still searching for grounding. Meanwhile, identity development stalls and nostalgia becomes a trap disguised as comfort. You stay where everything feels predictable, even if it's not where you want to be. And the real twist? This is only the surface of what's really going on beneath your habits. How nostalgia quietly shapes your identity and keeps you stuck. You might not realize it, but every time you slip into digital comfort zones, you reinforce certain millennial behavior patterns that shape how you see yourself today. This is where online identity psychology gets sneaky. The more time you spend in nostalgia-filled spaces, the more your present identity becomes tangled with who you used to be. Maybe you replay the same soundtracks, revisit old memes, or get lost in internet nostalgia loops because they feel like home. But each visit subtly freezes a part of you in that familiar emotional era. Funny enough, thoughts like these always make me think, wow, imagine if more people heard this. Maybe I should remember to like and subscribe myself when a video hits me like that. Think about how many decisions you delay because adulthood feels heavy or unclear. Fear of adulthood doesn't always show up as panic. Sometimes it shows up as endless scrolling, binge-watching, or burying yourself in digital escapism. You convince yourself you're taking a break, when it's actually your brain choosing the nostalgia coping mechanism it trusts most. It feels good, right? Safe, predictable. And honestly, moments like these are when people casually share a video with a friend who's going through the same thing, almost like passing along a flashlight in a dark room. What's even more interesting is how generational psychology plays into this. Millennials grew up between analog childhood and digital adulthood, which makes nostalgia hit harder for you than for many generations before. That contrast makes you feel stuck in ways that are hard to explain, especially when millennial mental health is stretched thin by burnout, uncertainty, and doom-scrolling psychology. You turn to the past for grounding, but sometimes it pulls you backward instead. And understanding this dynamic is the key to making a shift you might not expect. Breaking out of nostalgia's grip doesn't mean abandoning the things you love. It means reclaiming control over how they shape your life today. You can still enjoy millennial nostalgia, digital nostalgia, or those comforting moments of internet nostalgia, as long as they don't become your default escape route. A simple way to start is by noticing when nostalgia shows up. Is it joy, or is it emotional avoidance? Once you spot the pattern, you can choose differently. And it's surprising how empowering that choice feels when you finally make it consciously. You might try small practical steps that reconnect you with the present without overwhelming you. For example, instead of rewatching a childhood show for the 10th time, you could set a tiny challenge, like exploring a new skill for 5 minutes or reading a book that nudges your thinking forward. Atomic Habits by James Clear or The Defining Decade by Meg Jay are great starting points for identity development and escaping arrested development psychology. Even choosing to walk without headphones, journal for 3 minutes, or clean a single drawer can break doom-scrolling psychology loops. Tiny shifts interrupt psychological comfort zones in big ways. As you do this, something interesting happens. The fear of adulthood starts shrinking because you're no longer avoiding it. The nostalgia trap loses its power when you build new emotional anchors in the present. You begin to see that millennial struggles don't define you. They reveal what you're ready to outgrow. And as you gain momentum, digital escapism becomes less tempting because your life starts feeling more lived in and less like something you're hiding from. So now the real question is, what are you going to do with all this? You've just uncovered patterns in nostalgia psychology, digital escapism, emotional avoidance, and millennial behavior that most people never even stop to notice. You can feel it, right? That little shift inside you, like something clicked, or maybe like you suddenly see your habits under a different light. But insight alone isn't enough. What matters is what you choose to do the next time nostalgia whispers, "Come hide here." Are you willing to take one step, no matter how small, toward the version of yourself that isn't stuck in the past? What would your life look like if you let who you're becoming speak louder than who you were? How would your relationships change, your confidence, your routines? These questions aren't just for reflection, they're a doorway. And crossing that doorway is something only you can do. And honestly, if this video helped you see yourself more clearly, chances are it'll help someone else too. I always catch myself thinking, wow, if I'd heard this earlier, it would have saved me so much confusion. So if that thought crossed your mind about liking, subscribing, or sharing, just follow your instinct. Not for the algorithm, but because staying connected to conversations like this might be exactly what keeps you moving forward instead of sliding back into old psychological comfort zones.